Hey, would you
I don't.
agree with the assessment that every day
Yeah,
there is one main character on Twitter, and
I would
your
say that. Yes,
and that your goal should be to not become that main character at all times?
I don't necessarily agree with the second statement because occasionally, very occasionally, it can be positive, but it is a good general rule that if
Most of the
everyone
time,
is,
if most of the time if everyone's paying attention to you, it's probably not because you did something everyone loves.
yeah, yeah, that's usually true. Yeah, that's
Right.
usually true.
Okay. Um what if you released a take so incredibly dumb that it caused your console to trend for the first time ever, only to lead people to your nuclear take?
Yes. That would be embarrassing. That'd be very bad.
Well,
Why do you
Stadians,
ask?
lend me your ears.
Ah, yes.
Because, in fact, wait, in fact, I believe the profile has been updated to remove all references to Stadia.
Not all of them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not all of them. You want me to grab this one?
Stadians assemble. By all means, if you can.
All right. So,
Mr. Alex Hutchinson is the
one
main
Mr. Alex,
character of the day.
one Mr. Alex Hutchinson, who previously worked on Journey to the Savage Planet, Far Cry 4. Apparently, I believe he was the creative director of Assassin's Creed 3. Worked on Spore and Sims 2. His current profile on Twitter states that he is the creative director at SG&E Montreal Studio, which is Stadia Games and Entertainment, thus smartly taking the word Stadia out of his Twitter profile.
Montreal
Whereas
division.
it used to say creative director at Stadia, which implied that he was the creative director of the console, which did not help the situation. For backstory, in the past, this was the gentleman who had a high up position at Ubisoft and was asked, "Hey, when's Assassin's Creed going to go somewhere cool like Egypt or Japan?" He replied with, "Those are too boring for video games.
Cool,
We
cool, cool,
really
cool,
want to
cool.
do something cool like Assassin's Creed 3, which was in the American Revolutionary War." Oh, by the way, when talking about Assassin's Creed 3, he was that dev way back who described that Japanese games and stories are all gibberish. And the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
reason that people say that they like Japanese game stories, despite them all being gibberish and terrible, is because of a form of condescending pro-Japanese form of racism in the game industry. And games made by non-Japanese studios don't get fairly treated because of racism.
So what you're saying is there's an established history of hot takes.
Yes. Also was worked a lot on Assassin's Creed 3, the worst Assassin's Creed game. The
What?
worst one.
How dare
All
you?
right.
How are you just gonna talk shit about Raton Hageton?
Moving on to October 22nd, 2020. In the wake of the DMCA violation takedown nightmare that Twitch was going through and is still going through, that you and I talked about, that is making us stressed about our current profession, one Alex Hutchinson states, "Streamers worried about getting their content pulled because they used music they didn't pay for should be more worried by the fact that they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well. It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it. The real truth is that streamers should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use. So, one, boy, what an unsympathetic take to many people worried about their livelihoods. Two, I don't know about you, Wooly, but I actually pay for almost every single stream game that I play. On the only exceptions that I don't is when the company in question literally gives it to me for free to stream.
This is correct.
Three, he is implying that despite purchasing the game, they should also be purchasing single-use broadcast licenses, of which is only applicable to the music industry, and it's a shit-ass ripoff there, too.
Hey, common man, can we get some more money towards these conglomerates and corporations? What are we doing here, guys? Can we get more money towards these corporations? I feel like there's too much money being held by the rest of you, and you're not paying these companies enough as it is. You should be grateful. My favorite aspect of this story is the details that immediately start to emerge. For example, when God bless one Jacksepticeye comes in and says, "I find this extremely ironic considering you have fan art of me, a streamer, on your banner when I played Savage Planet," to which the artist of that fan art, then one Rare Magpie, comes on and says, "Wow, anyway, guys, the art he uses as his banner is by me. No, he didn't ask my permission or give credit to the art. In fact, he cropped out the watermark, though, which is very appreciative of him, which remains his banner, seeing as he hasn't been interacting with Twitter for the last 4 days." So literally, you are using someone else's shit as you talk your shit.
So I can't find it right now because his tweets are a nightmare shit show. But there was also another where he described that streaming games is really only I'm trying to find it. Streaming games is only of benefit to the streamer and never has any benefit to the actual game publisher. And this is where it comes to, you look at it and go, oh, this is an old-timey video game man, despite the fact that he doesn't look all that old.
Not at all.
Who goes, streaming and renting games and all that shit is stealing sales. Now, this is easily understood as the man who helped make Assassin's Creed 3, a game in which a video I helped make turned people away from that terrible game because it's bad. So I guess that video was technically responsible for costing them sales.
Hard cut to thousands of people talking in that moment about games they've bought through watching streams or watching Let's Plays of said games, and people directly attributing their interest in a thing to seeing it being played online in a stream or LP form, among us currently crushing it,
dominating
due
everything.
To said exact method of sharing a game with people. So
now
you then go, what kind of, like, what the fuck? Where does this take come from? And then you see the thing you described, which is creative director at Stadia, and then Stadia starts trending on Twitter. Because
before we move on, Wolves, I need to point out, you talk about Among Us, and Phasmophobia is going through the same thing right now as well. And you could obviously talk about games such as Metal Wolf Chaos, or maybe the Yakuza series. Games
Undertale.
In which... no, but I'm using those two specifically.
Okay.
Games in which I know I have had direct confirmation from developers.
Yes.
My work literally caused those games to come out or become popular in their regions.
Yes.
But let's ignore that. Let's instead have fun with, on the 23rd, the day after Mr. Hutchinson's statements. I received the following message on Twitter from the Raw Fury PR man. Quote, "Hey, I just wanted to share a tidbit from the Signifier crew. They sent me this. Quote, Pat's stream was the most beautiful thing. He watched all of the logs, heard all the podcasts, and the conversations started in the chat from then onward were beautiful. Then he cut it at GoAt, which is a location, and I thought, and it was amazing. I hope more streamers did that to support new narrative games," end quote.
How's about that?
I thought that I was stealing from the Signifier devs, even though they sent me the game for free.
You know, the other day when I played Ultra Kill, did you know that Hikita himself jumped in the chat and started screaming, "Stop playing it! Take it down! Stop!"
That's good.
And Hikita is yelling as we're playing through the game, screaming at the top of his lungs, trying to get us to stop playing. Did you know? Were you aware?
I did know that.
It's kind of crazy how we just ignored him the whole time.
I mean, I had a similar experience with Dusk, but it was actually just the dev team going, "Stop playing it with the controller."
Listen, man. So this fucking incredibly specific feeling suddenly makes infinite sense when you look at it and go, "Oh, it's the guy whose job it is to push the whole, we are streaming the game to you and you don't own anything you pay for." And this entire nature of a world where you literally own a thing and in its idea concept, and then when we decide to delist this game, you no longer own anything but your metadata. And Stadia as a whole being like 100% built around this concept,
around lack of ownership of anything,
makes perfect sense. What
also,
does
the
it?
craziest the thing is, like, what? I don't even know what he means by streaming games they didn't pay for. Does he think people are like stealing them from their quarantined GameStops? Like,
I mean, are we better off in a world of paying for games we don't own? Yes, because this is literally what you're doing on Stadia. You're buying a game you don't own. It should be the other way around, says Alex.
Now, here's my favorite part. So remember how I said it was creative director at SG&E Montreal Studio, and it says in giant things, "All opinions are my own."
Yeah, which wasn't there before.
Well, those weren't there before. They were added when Google Stadia came out and made an official response that was basically, "That dude, don't listen to him. We don't eat. No, I don't know who that guy. What?
Yeah.
Don't listen to him."
What
He has yet to tweet since, by the way.
Yes, exactly. What I find particularly confusing, of course, is at the same time that it makes perfect sense that this is the platform that this guy is working for, that is sharing these ideas. Do you remember the reveal of Stadia where they were pushing all the features? And do you remember the features that were all built around the idea of jumping into a game that's being streamed at the moment you see it streamed?
And as somebody in my chat that night pointed out, you mean all the features that still don't exist?
Yes. The thing where they said, "Here, chat, click this link, and now you can jump in and play a game with me," that they were talking about in their feature list, of course, which doesn't exist, yes. But they were literally pushing this whole watching and playing together thing as a part of what Stadia would be about. What the fuck is this dude talking about? Now,
it also felt really good. One, I think it's actually been confirmed that mathematically he is in fact the most ratioed man ever in Twitter history. He made four like raw tweets that day, and they were all ratioed by like factors of tens of thousands. But
I mean, the top of the thread has like literally double digit retweets and quadra digit replies.
So
So
Twitter does this incredible thing that I really love now. It's one of the only features I really love about Twitter, where when you click on a tweet, you get to see how many are real retweets and how many are quote retweets.
mhm.
And you get to see that the original hot shit ass take has 600-ish retweets and nearly over 18,000 quote retweets.
There you go.
Which was an entire day of literally every single person on my timeline being like, yo, this is stupid, including such people such as like Dave Szymanski, the creator of Dusk.
Now,
And just every single dev I follow
now
was
here's
like,
the thing.
this is stupid.
Um, all these devs and the entire, when it comes down to the letter of the law, these game companies could decide to pursue every single instance of every single person that ever displays their games on Twitch or on YouTube ever as an infraction, and they can decide to go aggressive and flag it as much as they want. We see some companies constantly doing this.
We almost went through that a couple years ago.
Yeah, well, we see a bunch of this happening every time Atlas puts out a game and they fucking put out a warning about what you can and can't stream. And we also see this shit with like a lot of Namco Bandai games where a bunch of the game's footage and sound will often be already archived in the flag content system.
Do you remember when Nintendo was all crazy about that shit, and then they made the Nintendo Creator Program, and then that horribly failed, and then Nintendo just gave up?
Yeah. They can choose to do this. It is a ridiculous war to fight. Make no mistake. It's an insane...
And it's a benefit to literally no one.
It's a costly war that does infinite more hurt than it does help to them. But they do have the ability to do it.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Ubisoft. Isn't that a crazy coincidence? Going so hard on anti-piracy on the PC that they ruined multiple versions of their games and they sold almost nothing. Do you remember that? Where Ubisoft had that insanely horrible, like always online DRM.
The one where you buy it on Steam, but you have to boot Uplay?
Yeah, and then if you drop online for even literally 1 second, it boots you out of the game and doesn't save your game and all that crap.
Yeah, when I wanted to play the 2D Assassin's Creed games and I ran into that wall. Yeah, I remember.
And when they were interviewed about it, they're like, we can confirm it's cutting down on piracy. And they're like, well, is it increasing sales? And they said, we can confirm it has cut down on piracy. And it came out with like SteamDB that those versions of those games just sold like goddamn shit. And then they gave up. Like,
anyone
it's
who's
crazy. That guy worked at that company during that period. Isn't that wild?
It's lovely how the smallest studios and indie games are clearly like paying enough attention to the situation and understand that, hey, you know what helps? Being in the stream, talking to the people who like your game and helping them show it off to other people. Like it's the most basic understanding of like, if someone sees something they like, they might want to go get it too. It's just that simple. And like, anyway, this dude, whatever, he you know, became the main character of Twitter for a day and like somehow managed to damage the Stadia brand more than it already was fucking groveling on the ground.
Like, wow.
It's sort of wild. I feel bad for Stadia because of this linked association that was not there prior.
Now, the last thing that I would like to say about Alex Hutchinson, and I find that this is incredibly important. He is the creative director at Stadia's Montreal studio and currently lives in Montreal.
Probably.
However, he is from Australia. So that's not our bad. That's on the Australians.
Okay. Is there Are you going anywhere else with that?
That is where it went.
Okay. Okay. You're not implying some sort of latent, implicit criminality?
No, just literally says Montreal studio, and I was like, oh, damn it. And then I saw Australia. I was like, phew.
All right. Well, yeah, that's a good time.